If it's time for you to move and you're looking to move from somewhere in Ohio to a different location in Ohio, or if you're moving out of state coming to Ohio, or heck, even moving from the country coming to Ohio, this video is going to be for you. This video is going to be for you. In the upcoming video here, I'm going to show you several different areas to consider moving to, because a lot of people ask, if I'm moving to Ohio or moving around in Ohio, where should I move to? Well, I'm going to show you some of the great neighborhoods to go to, great cities to stay in, show you some different things about them, tell you different statistics about them. And I got to give you a little disclosure though. When it comes to like school ratings, crime ratings, things along those lines, these are not my opinions. I'm going to give you what I feel about the neighborhood and what I think about, in general, like the community, and just talking to different people throughout the community, what their impressions are of it. But when it comes to statistics and ratings, those will actually be through independent resources. I will have the links to those independent resources posted in the YouTube video for you to read about. But the good news is, get a couple things out of the way, is all these cities I have marked down, just talking to different residences, everybody feels very safe in them. So when it comes to crime rates, no one feels like their crime has very much city. They're very happy where they're living, and in general they think it's a safe place to live. And they all have, at the very lowest, an A- school rating for the school district. So in general, every one of these are going to have a great school district rating. Again, not my opinion, just based on what independent websites are rating them as. But with all that in mind, I'm very excited to show you everything you can see in the area. We're going to focus on a more condensed area, and I'll go over that in just a moment. But with that in mind, sit tight. We'll get started right now. What's up, everybody? This is Justin Robleski with High Point Real Estate Group in Northeast Ohio. If this is your first time to my channel, make sure to click the subscribe button above and click on the little bell that'll actually notify you every time a new video pops up. Each week I release new videos constantly. I'm actually focused on making sure we're doing 2 a week, and it'll keep you updated on everything what's going on, whether you want to learn about eating, sleeping, activities, just anything you want to know about jobs, what to do, and anything you want to know about in Northeast Ohio. I am going to be your resource. If you need to contact me for any questions, anything you want to know about anything, whether you want to call, text, email me, or even send a carrier pigeon for all I care. Whatever works best for you, I'll be happy to respond to you any way I can. But this video is actually going to go over some of the best areas to live in Northeast Ohio. We're going to actually focus more specifically on Summit County for this one. We'll go over different counties here in the future, but we're going to stay specifically in Summit County. The areas we're going to be focusing on are anywhere from Akron going up to northern up into the Cleveland area. So you'll have a pretty wide range. You'll notice that these communities are in little pockets essentially. So they're in little areas that are close together, but they all have their own differences of community and different types of feeling as well. But with that in mind, let's get started. I'll start showing you. We're going to rate these starting from the least expensive one to go to, or not least expensive to go to, but the least expensive one to live, own a home, and things along those lines, and we'll go all the way up to the most expensive one. Stay tuned for the entire video. You will be shocked at how much of a price range there is starting from the lowest to the highest, and you'll find a common theme. A lot of these areas are very similar when it comes to a couple different things. But with that in mind, let's get started, and I'm looking forward to showing you everywhere you can live in the area. The first place on our list is the city of Fairlawn. When purchasing a home here, the average sales price over the past 6 months has been around $245,000. Now, this is going to go for all the communities. That doesn't necessarily obviously mean that you're going to pay that. You may pay less, you may pay more, you may sell for less, you may sell for more. That's just the overall average, obviously. But the things that are really noticeable about Fairlawn that I personally like is Fairlawn has everything you can imagine. So when it comes down to like the shopping areas, the amount of restaurants, there's an abundance of restaurants there. They can have everything you can imagine. They have such stores as your Target and your Best Buys and your large stores. And then in the Fairlawn area, there's also a large mall as well. So there's everything you can imagine around the area. When it comes to driving, is in your commute, is Fairlawn is actually located right near an expressway, so you can actually get on 77 as one of the major expressways you can be on, and you can actually go anywhere north or south, and that will get you anywhere you choose to go. Now, the bonus part is where Fairlawn is located, it's kind of right in the middle of Akron and the middle of Cleveland. So whether you want to go a little bit south or a little bit north, you're only 20 to 30 minutes drive either way. So you have multiple hubs no matter which direction you go. Now, when talking to different residences in Fairlawn, the things that really stood out for me of what they said is they all really seem to love their police and fire department. And just the local government in general. They felt the local city was running the government very well. Their public services, such as the fire and police, were second to none. They felt like it was extremely well ran, and people really enjoyed having the community service there. They also said at the end of the day, there was no money that seemed like it was being spent wildly or frivolously. Essentially, the city was using the money wisely to do what they should do with it. In addition to that, a lot of people said there's only about 7,500 population there. A lot of people said they feel like they're a close community. They feel like, you know, no one's, you don't get lost in the community, essentially. A lot of people know others or know of who others are, and everybody seems to have a sense of that overall caring about one another type community. Our next one is the city of Green. Now, here's it. Green's a little bit tricky, and let me explain to you why. Is Green, there's literally feels like there's about 100 people that actually live in Green directly. And Green has its own post office. It's literally like the size of a closet, essentially. But there's really nobody that technically lives in Green. There's a few, but very, very limited. Green is comprised of, like, essentially like the Green School District is comprised of Uniontown, small parts of Akron, even North Canton includes it as well. So it's actually like a combination of multiple communities, but it's called the Green area. In that area right now, houses are selling roughly for around $245,000, just like Fairlawn that we just discussed. And what I personally like about Green in my experience there is I have 3 kids. I actually raised 2 of my kids there, not I, but my wife and I. We raised 2 of our kids in Green. They went to Green schools. We still are in Green. But we absolutely love it here. We have great experiences everywhere we go. People tend to be very friendly. It does have that sense of community to where everybody knows who everybody is. I don't see that as a bad way. I've never really had like a gossip issue or so-and-so, you know, what's bad going on and things like that. Everything has actually been really quite nice. We've enjoyed being here for the most part, and like really can't think of anything negatives. When it comes to shopping, Green actually has, you know, a couple grocery stores in the area, and they do have a couple restaurants, but you have to drive a little bit if you want to get more access to those things. And by a little bit, I mean like 10 minutes. You could drive either way. You can go south to the Canton area, or you can go north more to the Akron area, and then you'll have an abundance of more things to go to. But 2 things that stand out in Green also is, one, they have 2 large emergency departments that are actually hubs of local hospitals that are 10-15 minutes drive away. So in case of a medical emergency, the emergency rooms, literally, it's really weird because they're 2 different companies, but the emergency rooms are about a mile, maybe 2 miles apart at most. But you have access to either one of them. With that comes great police stations, great fire departments. I've had nothing but great experiences with them. We unfortunately have had to call 911 for things before, and they have been extremely responsive, which is fantastic. The other thing is people really like is, although Green is smaller right now, it's growing quite a bit. So there's lots of new building going on. There's lots of new construction. They're developing new allotments, new subdivisions for people to move into, and they're constantly building up, you know, new shopping venues, new places, things to do, things along those lines. Oh, and then the last thing I didn't bring up is Green has a lot of parks in the area. Now, the only downside to the parks is they're kind of small. They've done a great job to where they have kind of like a little, it's called a splash pad, to where the kids can go just play. It's not for like a 12-year-old kid. It's more or less for, you know, your 5-6-year-old kids. But they have a splash pad for kids to go play at. They have jungle gyms, things like that. And they do have several parks, but I wish they just were a little bit bigger in general. But other than that, Green's a great place to live. Like I said, you know, we personally live there and really enjoy the community in general. Sagamore Hills is next up. So Sagamore Hills, your average purchase price is around $265,000. So still in the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to the different communities we'll end up showing you. But Sagamore Hills is a very small, we'll call it more like almost like a rural community, but it's not really in a rural area. But it's that really small town feeling. And from just talking to different people about Sagamore Hills, what they like about it is they feel that's a very quiet area, kind of like a cozy type area to live. And it's very well known for like its bike trails, parks, nature. It's a very scenic city for the most part. It's a very scenic city to be in the area for. And if you just like getting out and about, walking out with the family, going to the parks, and just enjoying nature and kind of ignoring all the hustle and bustle of the city and all that chaos that's going on, Sagamore Hills is a great place to live. There are some places to go for food and shopping. There's not too many though, so there will be a little bit of a drive. Again, not a lot. We're talking 10 minutes or so. We'll get you to everything you want. But essentially, it's going to be just your local, close-knit community that is really focused on residential housing for the most part. The next one on the list, which is Macedonia, I would compare to kind of like almost like Fairlawn, how we discussed that in the first part of the video. To purchase a house there, it's a little bit more expensive in Fairlawn. You're about $265,000 average compared to the Fairlawn, $245,000 average. But when it comes to the overall community, and what's nice about it is it has everything. There's a giant shopping hub there called Macedonia Commons, where anything and everything you can imagine is located there. A lot of people, it's actually very similar to Fairlawn, which they talk about, where a lot of people feel that the local government is really well ran. I've heard several people say they feel like the mayor actually truly cares about the city and really about doing what's best for the city. And they said, in fact, when they go to different meetings for city town hall and things along those lines, when they really see where the money's being spent, they notice that they are very focused on spending money on making Macedonia a desirable area to live. So if you're going to be there, why not enjoy everything about it? So it's not about the silly stuff. They have good roadways for the most part, no major construction or anything like that. But Macedonia is just very well taken care of in general, and a lot of people that tend to live there seem to have a lot of pride living in that area. And again, they don't feel like there's any money being wasted when it comes to government spending. The only downside that you'll find to Macedonia is what I've noticed, and the locals said this as well, is that during rush hour, because there's such a big shopping area there, it is pretty chaotic. So, if you're going to be in the 5 o'clock rush hour time, you just kind of expect you're going to be sitting in a little traffic and have to deal with a little bit of that. But in general, it's a great area to go to. There's lots and lots of shopping and food there to visit. So I mean, it's definitely a Christmas hub. So if you're going to go shopping, that's a great place to go. But again, a smaller community. People really enjoy being there, and it's very well ran from what everybody's told me. Reminderville is going to be our next one. Now, this one is kind of an oddball compared to the other one. Reminderville essentially is your rural country type setting. It's a very small community. They have roughly about 4,000 people there. The biggest thing people have told me that they feel about Reminderville living there is they feel very, very safe. It's like one of those neighborhoods where you don't feel like you have to lock your door at night or don't lock your car doors, and everything will be perfectly fine. No one's going to ever bother you. No one's going to steal anything. No one's going to commit any sort of crimes on you. Now, I'm going to be honest, because I haven't really lived in that type of a country setting. I don't know if I would be completely on board with that, even if I did live in Reminderville. But people love the sense of community there. As small as it is, they said there's essentially always something to do. No matter where you go, there's stuff for families or couples or even individuals. There's just always something to do in that small area, and they really appreciate that local feeling in general. Now, what they did say they don't like about it in general is because it's such a small area, they don't really have their own school district. So the kids get dispersed into different school districts based on your geographic location, obviously. With that said, you can have little Johnny or little Joey down the road that are best friends, but may go to different schools. And the downside to that is, they're not going to play the same sports together, they're not going to have classes together, and so on. So that's the only downside people have really said. But in general, people love living there. Now, it's very hard to typically buy a home there, and there's nothing special about them, but not very many people leave the area. They really like that little small local community feeling, and there's not a lot of homes sold in the area. And when they do sell, you need to jump on them quick. It's something you want to, jump on. It's not like you check out a home and we'll think about it for a week whether we're going to make an offer, because in that week that home's going to be gone. But it's the area, the way it is you're going to see larger yards. I'm not talking like 20 acres or anything like that, but out there you're going to have a lot more yards that maybe you're an acre or two, instead of being closer to the city where you're a quarter acre, half acre, maybe 3/4 acre, things like that. But if you're looking for that quiet, peaceful, small town atmosphere that's kind of out in the country, but still within a short driving distance to everything else you want to see, Reminderville is the place you want to go. Twinsburg and Twinsburg Township are essentially the exact same thing. I lumped them together. They're technically separate, but they're right next to each other, and they're kind of ran by two different governments, we'll say, locally, but essentially they're the exact same area, same school district, things like that. Now, Twinsburg out there, you're roughly around a $290,000 purchase price, so you're starting to get a little bit higher, but it's not ridiculous at all. There's roughly about 22,000 residents there, which could be a little bit larger for a city in Ohio. But when you talk to people in the area, they said that 22,000 doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like you get lost in the crowd or it's over congested or things along those lines. It just feels like a good community. And they have that whole atmosphere of, a lot of people were mentioning when you go to different sporting events, the community is very focused on supporting like local sports, like high schools, middle schools, things like that, as well as the arts. So you'll see a lot of people there on a consistent basis, always supporting those community events. Their fire department and the police department, people absolutely raved about, so people really love what they're doing up there. And then the thing that I've really noticed about Twinsburg when I'm there is that it's all about kind of like parks and nature reserves. So they're doing their very best. There is some up and coming stuff for they're building more communities, because it's a very close family community, we'll say. A lot of people like to raise their family there. Sorry, I just got off on a tangent, but it's essentially Twinsburg is very diverse. So if you're looking for an area that, different cultures, different ethnicities, things along those lines, you want to be very, very diverse. Twinsburg has actually, again, this is not facts based on not my opinion. I'm just going based on what other people said in the community, but they say it's a very diverse area in general. But they're very focused on parks and nature reserves, to where although they're building up the area and trying to build more subdivisions and be able to house more people there, and maybe some more businesses, they're trying to keep it focused as much as possible, as not forgetting about nature and still having nature as an important thing, and for wildlife and things like that, so you're not losing that like home feeling in general. Now, when it comes to things to do around Twinsburg, there are some industrial areas of it. You got your suburb area, which is your housing area. But if you're looking for any sort of shopping or food, you're going to have to drive a little bit. Macedonia is less than 10 minutes away, so Macedonia would be a great area to go to. But there's not a whole abundance of things you can do when it comes to like food and shopping and things like that in Twinsburg. But in general, from what I've heard from people, great place to live. They really enjoy living there and have had great experiences their entire life. Copley is our next town we're going to be looking at. So here's what was interesting about Copley is, well, not interesting, but this is the first one we're going to break the $300,000 price average for homes. The average price or sales price has been $300,000 over the past 6 months. But when I had the chance to interview more people and get a feeling for different areas, and I know all these areas very well, but not obviously as well as people that live in them and eat, sleep, and breathe them on a daily basis. But when I went to Copley, the number one thing that I've noticed is people loved living there. It wasn't they liked it. They didn't say it wasn't that it was a great community. It's just you could tell deep down they truly loved where they are at. So the best way I can describe Copley is it's about 10-12 minutes from pretty much all the hustle and bustle, everything, the shopping, the restaurants, things like that, as I've talked about in the other places. So it has that kind of we're out here type feeling out in the country, but you're really not in the country. You're just in a quiet area away from everything is what it is. And they said there's always things going on in the community. So the community is always doing some sort of events for the Copley area, for families to do, couples to do, just to keep people occupied and kind of create that sense of community to where everybody just wants to be a part of everything essentially. So another thing the residents actually mentioned to me is they feel that they're so extremely safe, it's ridiculous. And the reason they said reasoning behind that is anywhere you go, and now that they mention it, I pay close attention to it, and I've noticed actually, you'll see neighborhood watch signs everywhere. So everybody takes great pride in the neighborhoods and keeping an eye on others in the community, making sure everybody's safe. And they said there's pretty much not an hour that goes by that you don't see a police car driving around and patrolling neighborhoods and looking out for the community. So they said with that in mind, with everybody looking for everybody else, and for the police always looking around, they just feel that they're very safe and they have nothing to worry about at any time. So it's just a really nice little community. It's very quiet. It's one of those streets where you're not going to have like your rows and rows of houses. It's going to be a little bit windy. Most houses have your large oak trees, and it gives you that country feeling, but not out in the country, if that makes any sense to you. But hopefully that explains a little bit about Copley. People absolutely love living there when I talk to them. Richfield and Richfield Township are going to be where we start jumping up in price a fair amount. So Copley was our last one. Richfield, the average sales price is $425,000 over the past 6 months. So Richfield is kind of like a city that, I say this in a nice way because I mean it in a nice way. It's a city that has essentially nothing. So it's very focused on just neighborhoods. There's very not many restaurants by. There's not much shopping located by. It's just kind of like they're in their own little area. And several people even refer to Richfield as kind of like a hub of sorts, just for people to live. But then if they want to commute and go to anything they need, again, 10, 12 minutes away, they can commute anywhere they want for anything they need at any time. So anybody I've talked to in Richfield loves the fact that there essentially is nothing there. They like the fact that there's no businesses. It's even though it's close to the expressway and you can get to everything, it doesn't feel like that chaos at all. It doesn't feel like that congestion or that traffic or the hustle and bustle I've talked about previously about everything that's going on. They like their little community off on the side and nobody bothers them. What they are attached to is Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Park, which is awesome. So it's a park that you can actually go to that just if hiking, biking, doing your trails, just seeing wildlife. It's very focused on that big park scene in general, and it's one of the largest parks around. So great experience to visit there. So if you want to live somewhere, kind of like I just mentioned with Copley previously, if you want to live somewhere to where you're kind of off in your own little, like your own little world per se, but still everything is close by and it's kind of that close-knit feeling, and you want to maybe be in that little next level upper income area, Richfield is actually going to be the place you want to be looking at. Hudson is our next area we're going to be looking at. So here's what you get from Hudson is the average sales price is around $440,000. So as you notice, we're kind of going up the ladder. And the next place is going to be the top sales price in the areas. We'll cover the next city here shortly. But in Hudson, you get that feeling of a kind of like the community type feeling like we have in other ones, which obviously has been a theme here. But when people are in Hudson, they have that feeling that if you're from Hudson, everybody knows who you are. Like everybody knows everybody, and not that they know all the bad stuff about you, but everybody is as a community. And if you mention someone's name, on average, that person is like, oh yeah, I know them, whether it was from a school event or they helped out with some sort of community fundraiser or things like that. People in Hudson truly have like that close-knit feeling, and they're very proud that they're from the Hudson area. Now, it's not a large area by any means, but when they do have the downtown area in their like little shopping district, it actually does have quite a bit of stuff you can do that you don't really have to leave Hudson for your food in groceries and events and things like that. Hudson also takes a lot of pride in what they do when it comes to like having parades and having different events and things along those lines. And when you have that community, it's you kind of have like an upper level or upper income level is what you're looking at. So you have a lot more people with degrees in that area. Not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it's in general. They're a lot more densely populated with higher level college degrees. You have a lot more executive level positions in that area. And at $440,000, obviously you have more expensive homes as well. Now, these homes are nicer than other areas, but you're also paying to live in that area because of how nice of an area it is and how good of a community it is to be in. The number one people said that they love about the community is they absolutely love their school district, and they truly think their school district is by far the best they've ever seen. And that's coming from people who have lived in 7, 8, 10 different areas and have just truly said, they really embrace taking care of the kids and doing things the right way. But if you're looking at a little upper income level, you want that really close-knit community feeling and that little more expensive neighborhood, Hudson is a great community to be a part of. Bath Township is going to be our last one. So remember, we just mentioned Hudson was $440,000 average sales price. Bath jumps up to $650,000 average sales price. Bath is a very, very small community. There's really not much when it comes to stores or anything to do in the area because they actually have what's called the Montrose area. The Montrose area is actually part of what's called Fairlawn. If you remember, that was the very first one we talked about, I believe. And Fairlawn has everything. Now, Fairlawn is within literally depending on where you live in Bath, a 5 to 10 minute drive from anywhere in the Bath area. But the way you can look at Bath, so you can kind of have this grand picture of the community for it, Bath is like your kind of low-key setting to where at any given time throughout the year you can go out and you're going to see people walking their dogs, you're going to see people strolling around the strollers with the family, and essentially just kind of out jogging, getting exercise, and enjoying their community life. People in Bath tend to be very quiet. You don't hear of a lot of people living in the Bath area because it's not a huge area, but they tend to keep to themselves quite often. You'll deal with a lot larger houses in the area, more expensive houses, obviously. And then the one key one that you'll find out is in a previous video of mine, if you actually look, the one that talks about things to do in Akron, is LeBron James's house, the world famous basketball player. He actually built a house in Bath that is 30,000 square feet. It's ridiculously massive. It's cool just to drive by it and actually check it out. It looks like a massive hotel. But that's right in the Bath community. So in general, if you're looking for that kind of, I just want to do my own thing type area and not have to worry about everything else, but like the hustle and bustle 5-10 minutes away, Bath area is a great place to go. Takes a little bit more money to live there, obviously, but people seem to really enjoy being part of it. Hopefully I was able to show you something of interest to you. If you're looking to moving into the Northeast Ohio area, whether you're relocating within Ohio, moving out of the state, or moving from the country to Ohio, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Hopefully I educated you enough to where you actually get a good understanding of the Summit County area, and these different cities are actually very educational to you. Actually, better yet, if you like, just out of curiosity, I want to see how people react to them. If you can post in the comment, you'll click on like for the video for me, post in the comments based on what I explained to you, what city you might have the most interest in living in. I'm just kind of curious to see what people really think about them, what your impression is of them. But if you look at actually the links in the video here, I actually posted some of the statistic websites that you can go to. I'll post the links for each individual city as well. I'll look up the city sites and make sure they're posted for you. So if you want to read a little bit more about them, more than the brief overview I gave you, you can learn more about them. But with all that said, if there is anything I can do for you when it comes to any of your real estate needs, or you just have any questions about the community, if you want to learn more about a city, you want to know more about something, or something just wasn't clarified, feel free to reach out to me. Make sure you click on the subscribe button. Obviously, you want to know every time I send a new, put out a new video. Make sure you click the little bell to where you get notified every time those videos come out. I'm going to be posting at least 1 to 2 of these videos every single week, so you guys can stay updated with everything. But if you need to reach out to me at any time, you can text me, call me, email me, or even send the carrier pigeon like I mentioned before. Whatever works for you. Just contact me, let me know how I can help you. Let me know what it is I can do to make your life easier when it comes to anything along your needs, and I am happy to help you any way I can. With that said, I look forward to seeing you all on the next video. These are actually a lot of fun for me. They do take a little bit of time to produce and get ready to go for their YouTube. But in general, if there's anything else you need, let me know. And with that, I'm out of here. See you in the next video.